What should have been up about a month ago, but wasn't due to my insane procrastination, it's finally here. Recently, we completed our Onion Camo, Orion Camo grind, and along the way, mastering every single weapon, there's a lot of insight that I picked up and feel that I can share with you to help make your own camo grind easier. We've talked about gold, we've talked about platinum in the past, but today we're putting that all together in the polyatomic portion of the grind here so that we have a complete, comprehensive guide for unlocking Orion in the easiest and most efficient manner as possible. Everything will be timestamped so you can skip chapter to chapter if you need specific help on any individual topic, any individual step of this grind. But as we go along, drop your thoughts below. What do you think of the grind this year? Hard, easy, but tedious? Do you like Orion Camo enough to go for it? Whatever the case, feel free to drop your thoughts down below. Also, if you have any tips that we maybe missed here that you guys think could help out somebody else, feel free to drop it. But if you enjoy the video, you'll find it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on this. And if you're new to the channel, you'd like more guides and tutorials, hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with everything Modern Warfare 2 related. For now though, let's jump into the ways to unlock Orion Camo made as easy as possible. So let's start out with some basics here. Firstly, the timing of Orion. This year's overall mastery camo grind, it's not anything that is too terribly tough, but it is tedious. Not hard per se, but it's going to eat up a lot of your time. Having completed my Orion Camo in just about 6 days time in game, I can't take my combat record as full accuracy because I did play games not going for camos, and while it would make sense that Warzone is tracked completely differently in terms of playtime, without a combat record just yet for Warzone, I can't be certain. So let's just say roughly 6 days of playtime on my end for Orion. In that time, the most tedious of things to me was simply leveling up my weapons. We've talked about this here a few times on the channel, but for a simple rundown, in MP, I still think that Invasion is your best bet. It doesn't seem like Infinity Ward has changed the XP yield yet, where the game counts bot kills as the same standard chain of kills that you'd get against regular players. So that means that farming bots, if you use attack insert off the distance or anything like that, it'll still track the larger quantities of bots, how it would for those bonuses as if you went on 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30 plus streaks against real players. Each of those intervals ends up offering additional XP as bonus XP, so those chains not only on regular players but also bots are incredibly important. Then double XP, of course, perhaps the single most important factor, because you take all that stuff and then you double it, you're making an absolute killing in XP. So if you farm bots, you go on those long streaks of killing a ton of bots without dying, you're going to be ranking up weapons incredibly fast. Sometimes weapons can be completed in a single game. DMZ since Season 1's launch and Warzone's launch has proved to be incredibly good for weapon progression as well. Some bugs, yes, have persisted where you can end up getting weapon XP glitches and almost instantaneously rank up weapons, but for the sake of just stuff that will be there 24/7, DMZ's XP yield for completing contracts and stuff has actually been pretty good. But in the interest of time, again, we're not going to dive too far into the how to rank up your weapons fast topic of the video. We've already put out a few on that. So wrapping up this chapter in terms of the timing that it'll take to complete Orion, just realize it will take a lot of time and it's a grind for sure, not necessarily hard, but just tedious. The next thing I want to talk about is to know the rework of the camo system, because this can help you out incredibly if you are somebody that isn't too far into your grind, you're really interested in doing it, but maybe taking it at a slower pace. For this year's camo system, all you have to do to end up getting to Polyatomic and then Orion Camo is to complete 51 guns. 51 platinum guns, that will get you Polyatomic unlocked for your weapons, and then same thing for Orion and that full mastery. All you need is 51 polyatomic guns to complete Orion. Now, in some classifications, you are going to need to complete every single weapon, but as we'll touch on in just a second, others you might not need to. As of the time of recording this, there are a total of 55 weapons in the game, so if you only need 51 of those, you can entirely skip some. For simplicity's sake, that means that you can skip 4 weapons in total right now. In the future, as we'll touch on in just a second, you can skip more, but for right now, you can skip 4 weapons in total, which just so happens, for a great example, is the number of launchers that we have in Modern Warfare 2. So in theory and in practice, you can entirely skip the launcher category. And since there's 4 launchers total, if you were to start right now, or you've progressed far enough in so far, but haven't gotten any of the launchers gold yet, you wouldn't have to. Instead, you get gold and platinum on the Chimera, introduced in Season 1 Reloaded, the M13B, Bass P, and Victus XMR, introduced in Season 1 Gold and Platinum, in their respective weapon classes as well. To unlock Platinum, it only requires the base number of weapons at the time of launch, so that's 8 rifles, 4 battle rifles, 8 SMGs, 4 shotguns, 6 LMGs, 6 marksman rifles, 4 sniper rifles, 2 melees, 5 pistols, and of course those 4 launchers. That's where your grind has potential deviations and differences as opposed to somebody else. The subjective matter of choice comes into it. What's the easiest for you? You can skip the entirety of launchers, or you can get one of them gold, work on platinum for one of them, and then skip, say, the riot shield, because holy hell, after the update where it's a 3-hit in standard core 6v6, it's miserable. So if you do that, I'd recommend getting the RPG Platinum and then Poly. You'll probably have the easiest time getting those double kills, which are the toughest challenges of the launchers per se, but ultimately it all boils down to, at this point in the year, and more so going forward, you have choices, or if you want to call them, shortcuts for your grind. Now, if you're really taking your time, you're not expecting to get any of these annoying ones out of the way by the time February and Season 2 rolls around, you're in even better shape because at that point, presumably we'll have another 3 to 4 weapons, so that means you'll be able to skip all the launchers, all the melees, and even some other weapons in other classes. If you don't like the shotguns, you can skip 1 or 2 of them. You don't like the pistols, you can skip 1 or 2 of them. The trend makes it easier and easier to obtain Orion as the year goes on. Now, talking about specific weapon challenges, specific camos themselves, the masteries, let's jump into firstly gold. For most weapons, gold requires you to get 3 kill streaks 10 times, but others do include 3 kill streaks without dying 5 times for pistols, 2 kill streaks without dying 5 times for launchers, and 2 kills without dying 10 times for melees. So a lot of this comes down to patience or just sheer farming. Before we get into some mentions on how this can be obtained easier, fundamentally this isn't something that you have to simply focus on getting those 2 or 3 kills, dying, and then starting your streak all over again. The nice part is that within this game, these do stack. So if you get 6 kills, that'll be something that counts towards 3 of those 3 kill streaks without dying. If you end up going on, theoretically, say an MGB 30 kill streak, you can get all 10 of those 3 kill streaks in a single life. So just know that they stack. But truthfully, one of the best additions that you can do right now, and this is going to be a recurring theme, is to grind out lives in the chaotic maps. Shipment right now is just incredible for this because especially if you get into a groove, you can easily rush a ton of stuff, get those 2 to 3 kills and then die, but get 2 to 3 more immediately. It's kind of like that trade-off of do you value your KD, having those higher kill numbers and longer streaks, or do you value your time more? Regular 6v6 and ground war may play slower to complete those streaks, but Shipment, you'll die a lot, but get those 5 to 10, 2 to 3 kill streaks done in a singular match, sometimes of 10 minutes. So it's up to you. When going for this challenge in particular, I'd like to run a few things here. Suppressors of some kind to stay concealed a bit on your compass, since the minimap is still bugged with ghosts, silencers, and UAVs. That's an entirely different story for a different day, but also I'd run Ghost as well, because even though that's still bugged, you'll be off the radar from UAVs, which can absolutely help conceal your position in traversal around enemies in either 6v6 or larger ground war maps. But truth be told, gold is probably the most hands-off challenge here for it, and unfortunately there's not much more to it in the tips and tricks category than just, hey, stay alive for 2 to 3 kills at a time. Shipment and Shoot House, though, definitely make this way easier, so grind those out. Platinum, however, that's where we can start to go into way more depth and where we have more genuine tips on how to smooth everything out and do it more efficiently. In the interest of time, since we've already laid out all of these in a standalone guide for Platinum, we'll breeze through this a bit more at a top level, but still giving you the adequate amount of information. For Platinum, before we begin, I would honestly say that this challenge, though, is the most tedious, most annoying of the entire grind. I'd say beyond leveling weaponry, this is the longest part of the grind itself. So just know that, to me, getting past this challenge set, that's the biggest part. Then you're home free and you can play the game again, since long shots inherently require you to adjust your playstyle to likely play much slower and in ways that you wouldn't necessarily do normally. So firstly, what defines Platinum? For most challenges, it's defined by a certain number of long shots. 25 is the most common value associated with the weaponry. However, for melees, it's to get 2 kills within 10 seconds of each other, and for launchers, it's to destroy 10 to 25 enemy kill streaks, equipment, or vehicles, depending on which launcher you're using, which equipment doesn't actually count as field upgrades like ammo boxes and things like that. So you're essentially limited to claymores, proximity mines, and if you somehow miraculously find someone who's placed C4 and hasn't detonated it yet, those count towards that. But most common though, long shots, what defines those, rifles is 38 meters, battle rifles 38 meters, SMGs are 30 meters, shotguns are 12.5 meters, LMGs are 38 meters, marksman rifles are 38 meters, sniper rifles are a long distance of 50 meters, and pistols finally are your 20 meters for a long shot. Now, to save the monotony of each individual location and individual map, once again, I'll toss on screen the TAC map guides that I made for the initial Platinum guide, but we won't go into depth on every single angle like we did with that. My personal favorites, though, in terms of maps to grind out and surf for are LSCO, that football pitch side, end-to-end is a long shot for any weapon category, and its clear lines of sight, save for that cover that you need, is incredibly helpful. I also really enjoyed Mercado's mid-map, which hilariously, that's about the only place on the entire map that has high enough traffic area for long shots to be regularly accrued, despite there being a couple of other angles, but Mercado does have the least amount of long shots beyond Shoot House, which we'll talk about in just a second, but mid-map is phenomenal for those. Embassy was a great map to farm those on as well. That court side was incredible. On both sides, there are angles that have those true long shot potentials, and also if you're lucky on map flow per match, that parking lot side can also be decent, but it's a little bit harder because there are more egregious head glitches, if we can call it that, but those both are viable options. And then also mid-map works as well. Cross map. Crown Raceway was okay. It's hit or miss. Perhaps surprisingly, the longest line of sight, that lane by B flag, I found that to be way less contested than the opposite side with the shops. Shop side is great. Shoot house, though, again, coming back to it, depending on what you're looking for, is kind of less than ideal this year, surprisingly. The only, as we dubbed them, true long shots that can accommodate for 50 plus meters, meeting criteria for every single weapon category, including sniper long shots, is either mid-map end-to-end from the spawns or the junkyard fence wall that looks into the shantytown spawn. And even then, you better hope that no one rounds that concrete wall, because that's surely not going to be a long shot for you. It's a good map, but suboptimal this year for long shots by comparison, if you ask me. And then Shipment, one of those maps that, again, is just great for grinding. For those that are trying to do grinding all in one spot, unfortunately, this isn't an option this year because it's a 35 by 35 meter map, which means that if you're working on long shots for rifles, battle rifles, marksman rifles, LMGs, and snipers, you physically cannot get a long shot on this map. And then others, it's kind of end to end. So for that, it's not the best in that regard, but you do have options spread out across the maps in multiplayer. Ground War is very easy. A lot of engagements are long shots, so if you guys want to do it there, you absolutely can. But honestly, I kind of would avoid that because the biggest thing I can say for long shots, however, is tier 1. It may not be true hardcore, but the ability to mostly one-shot headshot players across the map with a majority of the weapons in the game will make your life so much easier, I promise. If you try pistol long shots in core, it honestly may break you. Same thing with SMGs like the Fennec, just not fun to do, but hardcore makes it manageable. They'll still be kind of a pain, but you can do it. Tier 1 is absolutely the biggest cheat code per se for this, and again, it's nice for those still working on it because unlike a lot of people that I knew that completed their long shots right after launch, it wasn't there for them when initially completed. Now, beyond that, some weapon builds, optimizing for long shots. For your optics, I'd say absolutely take the X10 Angel sight that has a built-in rangefinder for targets that you can end up seeing how far they are away, so you know immediately you have that feedback of if you are making that long shot or not, which definitely within tier 1 is nice because you don't get those on-screen notifications for a lot of stuff. Beyond that, though, a 4 times or VLK 4 times optic, that Forge Tac Delta 4, which is a 5.5 times, something of a mid-range optic is definitely nice to make sure you're seeing where you are on target. Barrels, something that prioritizes damage range if possible. Bullet velocity and recoil control is also great. Recoil control being a big one for those faster firing weapons. Muzzles, I'd end up putting a suppressor or something that can help with recoil. Underbarrels, the bipods were incredibly helpful. So that's definitely something that is very nice and stabilizes incredibly well. For the shotguns in particular, use slug rounds. You want to aim down sight with those for sure, but it makes life much easier and makes shotguns almost snipers to some degree. So definitely use those. Then going into other platinum challenges, melees, you have 2 kills within 10 seconds of each other 10 times. For the knife, that's not too terrible. Small maps are your friends there, and honestly, 10 seconds is more than you'd expect. Form 18 and Shoot House are absolutely my preferred for this. Shipment, again, also in the mix there, but in terms of things like your Riot Shield, I would absolutely try and go to tier 1 for that still because, well, again, as we'll talk about in the Polyatomic section of this in just a second, 3 hits in core is very annoying at this point. You're going to be taking 4 or 5 seconds sometimes to get that kill with those 3 hits that it takes. So you're going to need immediate double kills if that's the case. But tier 1 can help that out greatly simply because it is still 1 shot, 1 kill. Launchers, Shipment, and smaller maps are absolutely great. Shoot House as well. Taking out those streaks on smaller maps, they're much closer to the ground as opposed to if you were in Ground War and have to shoot cross map for that. So things like counters, VTOLs, all that kind of stuff is right there, so it helps out greatly. But that is your platinum portion of the video. Polyatomic, like I said, we're over the hump now. This is where it gets a little bit easier. Life gets back to regular play sets. The hardest challenges are out of the way. So you can end up playing the game at your own pace, breeze through these final challenge sets of headshots at your own pace, which is definitely nice. Now, Polyatomic, again, as we mentioned, are mostly headshots, but for launchers, it's double kills, and melees, it's kills from behind. The best tip that I can give you for all of this is Shipment. You will get ample opportunity for all of these with Shipment. Again, the only thing that may be an exception here is that Riot Shield. Kills from behind with that are an absolute pain. It is something that even with the combat knife on Shipment, it can be a pain. Take a couple of games because mostly you're going to be taking gunfights face first, head on. So getting around players, getting that knife kill is something that you might get a couple of game, but it might be slower than you anticipate. But when then you transfer that same challenge to the riot shield, again, 3 hits per a kill, you're not going to get those done anytime soon. Players will turn around on shipment, or you'll get shot in the back before you complete it. Again, for that, I'd still recommend tier 1. Try to sneak up on enemies, perhaps go for the stun route, get them done that way. Tier 1 allows for that 1-hit kill still, so just makes it way less rage-inducing. Double kills, that is something for launchers, are an absolute pain. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. They suck. Meleeing with that launcher and then getting a kill, shooting it off is still something that works. Shipment, for example, is great for that. Honestly, though, from surfing shipment, while any mode works, hardpoint, I think, worked best for me. While you'll have people putting down trophies, which can absolutely be a major bummer, you'll get a ton of doubles with ease. The only problem that you'll have really on shipment is that delay in which you have from pulling the launcher from your hip to firing. That's something that's gotten me killed plenty of times, but just know that shipment is absolutely your best friend here with this one. For your traditional firearms, though, in regards to headshots, getting those headshot challenges, just aim higher. That is one of the most basic things that we can say, but honestly, that's really all it comes down to. You'll start to recognize where chest and head height are the more and more you end up focusing on those headshots, so it'll become more natural as you grind these out. And especially with 1,000 plus headshots throughout your entire poly grind to practice with, you'll get it down. So you'll have the ability to pre-aim corners and know where enemies will be, and it'll help you out tremendously. But again, grinding things out, shipment is absolutely the way to go. I was about halfway done with Polyatomic, but then sat down for about 6 hours or so one night, and I grinded out 20 to 25 weapons, and I honestly thought my pacing wasn't all that great. I got kind of stuck on some of the snipers in terms of that pacing slowing down, just because a lot of the ADS on snipers wasn't great, and then some of the hitboxes didn't feel like they were registering entirely well. But I mean, 20 plus weapons in a 6-hour span, you can absolutely grind this out with relative ease across the board. The things that I would say to help this out, firstly, of course, any sort of red dot, especially if you're grinding these small maps out, rifles, LMGs, shotguns, SMGs, you name it, put a red or blue dot on these classes so that you have that pinpoint precision. My personal favorite is that blue dot of the Cronin Mini Pro Optic, but if you're going for things like snipers, not every single one will have a red dot associated with it. Sometimes it's a hollow sight, sometimes it's like a 4x optic, but something that gives you pinpoint precision, use that and it will help you out tremendously. And again, just then simply aim higher. And then once you complete 51 of those polyatomic weapons, you're good. Orion is yours. You'll unlock it and the grind will be over. Now again, whether or not Orion is worth it to you or not, you just like polyatomic, whatever the case, you can do it however you'd like. One of the nice things this year is that once you get to those mastery camos of platinum and polyatomic, if you want to call it quits right there, you don't have to do any additional weapons. You can unlock those polyatomic challenges by getting 51 platinum weapons and then only do 1 or 2 polyatomic weapons if you really want to. If you like the look of polyatomic better than Orion, you can stop after however many you want to do. It's not something like in the past you had to complete an entire weapon classification to unlock it automatically. That's the nice part that I really like about these weapons this year in how the camos work. But for now, that is the ultimate Orion guide here that I can give you. Everything that I've learned along the way, 6 days of playtime and grinding out every single weapon in the game. Hopefully it can help you out in some way, shape, or form. So if it did, let me know your thoughts down below and do me a favor and drop a like on the video. This has been weeks to months in the making, so do me a favor and drop a like on it if you enjoyed. If you're new to the channel, you'd like to stay up to date with more things, guides, tutorials, and all that kind of stuff, we're probably going to be shifting into some DMZ guide content here soon. I'm very excited to jump in and grind everything out here for that. That's what I've been unfortunately neglecting because I've had so much else to do, but now completing one grind, I can go on to the next. So if you guys would like to stay up to date with all of that, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. But for now, thanks so much for watching. My name's been Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.